You are about to enter a great adventure.
This is Starting from Gorilla.
And Matty Q, this one's for you.
Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of Strutting from Gorilla, our 15th episode. I'm your host, the world famous Mango, and we're here as always with our three lords of the ladies, Mikey Cash, Vito, and the leader of men, Bobby Stone. We have a very special show for you this week because after our opening 2 cents for the first time in the history of Strutting from Gorilla, we're talking about one wrestler only. We're going to be focusing in, laser focus, a deep dive into the storied 30-year WWE career of the Phenom, the Dead Man, the American Badass, the Lord of Darkness, and most importantly, the older brother of a mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, the Undertaker. Now, let's get quickly into our 2 cents. Mikey Cash, you have a remembrance this week.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mango. Before we get into all our talk about The Undertaker, I thought we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the tragic loss of Pat Patterson earlier last week. Pat Patterson was just a real pioneer in many different ways. I think it's almost impossible to list all the things that he did for this business. And you could line up all the Hall of Famers and the future Hall of Famers that have been putting their remembrances of Pat and his impact on their careers out on social media. I know for me, it's really cool to see a guy like him who for years, he's one of the first gay men in wrestling and he had to hide that for many years. It was really cool to see him be able to actually be himself. It was many years too late, but I'm really happy that he was able to do that. In terms of his wrestling accolades, for the big time WWE fans out there, he is the inaugural Intercontinental Champion. He won that in a bootstrap match against Sergeant Slaughter. Check it out on the network. Nothing much more I could really say except we'll miss you, Pat, and Godspeed.
So I just want to add to that too, Mike. I mean, Pat Patterson, for me, I'll always remember him as the guy who was part of the Stooges with Briscoe.
Right.
I posted a pretty good clip about when he won the hardcore championship from him. They had a pretty funny a feud going, and I posted it on our TikTok page, which is _gorilla. And it got some good comments on there. And I think a lot of people remember him in our generation from those days, but it, like you said, it spans beyond that. Not only was he important in the ring, but it was pretty amazing to see the support he got from everybody in the wrestling community. It was clear that he was very influential to a lot of careers. So it's definitely going to be one that hurts, I think, for a lot of people. But those were good remarks.
Yeah, totally. He's definitely respected all around the wrestling community, just like another guy we know, Bobby Stone, the leader of men.
Good evening, gentlemen, and happy to be here with every one of you. And also, I'm not going to continue on the Pat Patterson path, but it would be insulting if I were to say anything else other than that man was fantastic, gold to the company. But when you talk about gold, you also have to talk about something else that's pretty crazy, like our stock. So our stock currently is at, and by our stock, I mean, the World Wrestling Entertainment stock at $43.77. It has gone down a point, and it will never see $35. So when it does, consider purchasing it. I think I've missed my turn on buying it about 4 different times now. So
The
boys,
boys,
I am looking forward to this match. This just.
I'm looking forward to your
deep
match
dive
too.
On it. Am I going to DDT you again, Anthony Vito?
I mean, listen, that was a fluke. The whole fan. You remember when Taker lost the streak? That's what happened. Everyone was stunned when you came out and DDT'd me out of nowhere.
That's all right. I think we're still trying for that RKO, I believe too. So until then. But I am looking for today's show. I watched a bunch of documentaries. Talk about that later on, but I'll let Matt do his thing.
All right, cool. Yeah, I know there's a lot to get to today, but we have a little bit of a hot take from our buddy Big Vito.
Yeah, so I mean, I can't not mention this because it was a great week in wrestling. I mean, 2020, I think this was probably the best moment in all of 2020. The icon, Sting, who I know I love. I don't know about the rest of the people in this podcast, but I love this guy. Okay. I think he's fantastic. And he debuted on AEW this past week, and it was awesome. I'll be honest, I wasn't even watching it. I had to get it from Mango, which thank you for letting us know. I immediately turned it on and watched that debut about 10 times because they did a great job with it. They had this whole winter is coming theme, which was Game of Thrones, and then all of a sudden he comes out. Oh, it was awesome. It was so good, and I'm so happy that he's back in wrestling here because this is my vent for the day. This is what I wanted to get off my chest, and I'll make it quick because I'm really excited about this episode today. But this is my vent, okay? This is what is wrong with WWE right now. They have this legend Sting that they brought in, and they buried him. Whether they created him or not, Vince McMahon and the WWE have this thing where it wasn't a WWE product. So they went on and they buried him in WWE. He didn't even win a match. It was awful. It was great to see him on TV. I thought the way he got introduced against Rollins was awesome, but they did nothing with him. He wasted away for 4 or 5 years in their arms. They could have used him in many different ways. So I'm excited that he gets a last shot here in AEW. I know he's going to be used every week, and I hope they're not going to make the same mistake of using him as a wrestler. But they can use him as this aura. People love him, right? And it makes WWE look awful because they went and they buried him, and now he's back here, and everyone's got a good chance to see him end his career the right way. So I'm really excited about it. That's my vent session for the day. And let's get into the dead man.
Fatality.
Sure. Wow. I think we can all agree AEW has been on fire lately, Vito, and what a great week it was in the world of wrestling. We do have a lot to talk about with The Undertaker this week. So just to give you a little rundown of what we're going to be talking about. Firstly, we'll start with some trivia. Do we want to start with trivia? Or do we want to end with trivia?
Let's end with trivia.
Yeah, let's end with trivia. Hey, before we go on, though, there's something I forgot to mention, and I want to get this at the top of the episode, not the bottom. But
what she said.
Yeah, of course. Right? Yeah.
Boom.
We had so our Twitter handle, which is _gorilla. All right. We've been gaining followers left and right, and we've gotten some great interactions. And we had a guy who, it could be a woman actually. I don't really know, but we had a person who commented, and it was at Cruy to Pay. Okay. And he talked about how he listened to our last episode and he basically wanted to get in a magazine off because I think he has a better magazine collection than I have. And I mentioned I found all my old magazines. So I just want to give him a shout out. He listened to our podcast for the first time, which I think we have a lot of those listeners. And I'm excited. I hope you guys give us a chance and tweet at us. We have a Twitter, which is from _gorilla on the Twitter machine. And then we have a TikTok, which is from _gorilla on TikTok. So check them out. Check them out. If you have suggestions or you want to tell us how bad we suck, that's fine too.
Vito, to that point, and I'll grab the fans on the other side. Hey, just kidding. But we have new friends, new followers, and new hopefully continuing on with this next show. It's a brand new bag of listeners. But we have them from Canada, we have them from Ireland, we have them from Sri Lanka, we have them in Germany. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we are not only growing in the States, but we're growing slowly but surely. That's what she said.
And we owe that all to our talk and our love for Bret the Hitman Hart.
I agree.
The man was loved everywhere, and now so will we.
HBK's better.
According to our poll, it actually ended at a 50-50 50. So I think we might need to run it Georgia style and do a runoff and do it one more time and maybe go more than 22 votes. Let's see if we get some more followers from the new and ever growing from
Well, if we
Gorilla.
ever get to the main topic of this episode, maybe we will.
That's a good point.
No, let's talk about the Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels voting thing. For like,
That's another episode.
Talking about another
why'd
That's a
you
separate
mention Bret
episode.
Hart? You can't mention Bret Hart around me, man. Okay, listen. Hey, let's get into. Okay, let's just say the Undertaker has had a 30-year career. He's had huge, different like phases of his career. And his first phase of his career was in the '90s, the early '90s. He came in. He didn't sell for anybody. He was just a real badass. Mikey Cash or Vito, whoever wants to start. Let's talk about the early days of the Undertaker, the early '90s.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead, Mike. You know what? I'm going to let you go.
Thank you, Vito. Thank you.
That's a first.
Vito giving up the mic. Wow, you witnessed it. Witness history here, folks. So in terms of the early days of the Undertaker, I thought it was really cool, especially watching the Paul Bearer documentary when they talk about how he kind of came on as Undertaker's manager, and obviously when he first debuted, he debuted with Brother Love or Bruce Pritchard, something to wrestle with. I thought it was really cool how, if you watch when Undertaker first came in, that very first entrance at Survivor Series, you could already tell there was an aura about the guy. And that very rarely happens in this business. And so I was able to get my hands on this old Undertaker DVD called This Is My Yard, which it's kind of like, it's very expensive on eBay. But it's something that this documentary where he kind of talks about how the kids were like crying and stuff. And you can see the clips of these kids in the audience like being terrified by this guy. And I just thought to myself, like, how interesting it was for them to be able to continue to do that, considering, especially at that time, they were family friendly at that time. They weren't like doing any Attitude Era type of stuff. They weren't pushing the envelope. So it was really, it was kind of wild that they would have this idea and continue on with it, even when they saw the reactions from the kids. But man, this guy, like you said, he didn't sell. Like, he was a legitimate, just dead man. He was rolling the eyes in the back of his head. He was hissing. He was just choking guys. But you could already tell that he was incredibly athletic. And again, it was more so the mystique about him that I think really got him over than any of his in-ring work. To kind of speak to that, a year later at Survivor Series, he's beating Hogan for the title. That just didn't happen at that point. So I think that kind of tells us all we needed to know about where he was going, and obviously the rest is history. But Vito, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Hogan thing was really interesting. We give Hogan a lot of shit on this podcast, and rightfully so. But I mean, basically, for him to lose to the Undertaker for the title that early in Undertaker's career is pretty interesting. I mean, you don't see him give the title up very much. I don't know really the backstory behind it. I don't know if that he was going and doing a movie or something, so he had to give it up. But I thought that was pretty interesting. I think, quite honestly, that made the character. We talk about people losing and building other characters. Hogan losing was a big deal, and so him to lose to the Undertaker, it only built up that whole dead man character. So I thought that was really big. But one of the things to go along with that too was the I guess, like, because we talk about Hogan, this is a little bit about Hogan, but I guess he kind of made up a story about how the Undertaker hurt him with his pile driver at that pay-per-view and ended up getting the title back. And Taker's pretty I think Taker was pissed about it, and he talks about it all the time now. So I'm kind of curious, but Hogan's that was the golden boy at that time. So I just thought it was interesting, and I really think that's why Taker doesn't like Hogan, basically because of that. So, but to your point about Paul Bearer too, if there's no Paul Bearer, there's really no Undertaker. He was 50% or more of the reason the Undertaker succeeded, and everything they did was just great. And Paul Bearer, if you watch that documentary he had, The Mortician, it is really, really good. It brought more light into Paul Bearer. I did not realize how much of an influential person he was, and he made the Undertaker. I won't go into it too much, but that was really big. The other thing about his early career too was, everyone forgets about this, but the mask. right? When he had that mask. And what happened was he was in a match with Mabel, who was Viscera later on in his career, and he did a leg drop. He botched it, and it broke Taker's orbital bone, so he's out of action. But even when he was healed, they made him wear that mask, which made him kind of look like the Phantom of the Opera. You know,
Hey, it was a nice added element to him. The more theatrics for someone like him, it fit him perfectly.
It really did. I didn't mind it at all. When I was a kid, all I knew was the mask. But it was interesting because in Undertaker's early days, they would always put him in with these big guys that, you know, kind of sucked. And I don't think that was his. I don't think that was his MO.
Do you mean like the Giant Gonzalez at WrestleMania 9?
I do.
Okay, that match sucked, but I will say one of the coolest moments is when he chokes out. When the Undertaker's getting choked out and Paul Bearer just holds the urn and he just like pops up. It was just one of the coolest moments. That entrance was badass with that bird. It scared the shit out of me.
So good, but it wasn't Gonzalez who made the match. It was Taker. And the thing is, Taker's best matches are with smaller wrestlers. If you look at all of his matches, his best matches are with smaller wrestlers. I mean, Kane did a good job. I'll get into that later. But the mask thing was interesting because it led to the whole fake Undertaker. Do you remember that one where they had a second Undertaker? Ted DiBiase brought him out.
I do, guys. I remember that, and that was like one of my favorite times in the Undertaker's career. And that brings us to like a funny question. I just want to get you guys' opinion on this. So you have a guy playing the Undertaker, right? And the Undertaker is obviously a gimmick. You can put it on anybody, like Diesel, whatever. But could anyone have done the Undertaker better than Mark Calloway, or even close?
Absolutely not. I'm gonna jump in on this one for a second. That build of the character, there was a lot with Bruce Pritchard and the rest of creative diving in to start up the Undertaker, but it was the Undertaker and Mark Calloway alone who actually built and took the concept and made it the reality that we know and love today. That coincided with Paul Bearer and helping develop, I think, the creative and the collaborative to get everybody to build onto what The Undertaker was, huge. But the only person who can execute it and deliver it the best way possible was Mark Calloway.
I would agree there. My unpopular opinion here, though, I do think someone else could have played The Undertaker. I don't think it would have lasted as long as The Undertaker lasted, though. I think you could have had someone step in and do that gimmick for a couple years, even the first 5 years, and get away with it and give you about 90% of what The Undertaker gave you. But it's the years after that made The Undertaker so great.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that. Nobody else was able to pull that off, but
no. Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed. Because he morphed his character, which is basically what we're talking about now with the 3 decades of destruction. But to go back, I have a question for you guys. Because we were talking about the fake Undertaker. Who played the fake Undertaker?
Brian Lee. It was his cousin.
It was Brian Lee. Very good. It was. And he played him for, I think it was, they had that feud going on for a little bit. But it wasn't really a great feud. I mean, it's kind of stupid when you see 2 characters of the same thing going at each other. It was cool for like a one-off, but you keep going on and it just drew it out. But let me ask you this question. What other character did Brian Lee play in WWE?
I have no idea. Who did he play?
Chains from the not Disciples of Destruction, the biker
Disciples
game.
of Apocalypse?
Yeah, Cycles. Yeah, he was Chains in there. So there you go. Funny one.
Great.
So
not a podcast unless you got a DOA reference in here.
We've mentioned them probably way too many times.
It's like the 3rd time.
Yeah,
it's terrible. Do you want to mention that movie again? What's it called?
Suburban Commando.
Whatever. Yeah. So, Cash, what do you think about? Okay, so we've gone up to basically 95. Okay, we should have written this shit because we could have. We were 9. I mean, I was like 9. Vito was like 4. He's younger than me.
I hate to. Yeah, 100% right.
Sorry. So we moved to, I guess, the Prince of Darkness phase.
Oh yeah, that was kind of interesting. So like that kind of came about, or at least I think the seeds of it started getting planted probably in like 96, because in 96 Undertaker has this feud with Mankind, and during that whole feud, that's when Paul Bearer turns on the Undertaker and he sides with Mankind. And you see during that, to like, they have this great rivalry kind of going through, and it kind of leads up to Undertaker eventually by somehow gets the championship in 97, and then he loses it to Bret Hart. We don't need to get into that, but the real Prince of Darkness, I think, really takes a turn here when we get the introduction of Kane. Paul Bearer starts coming out with all these vignettes and talking about how Kane is alive and he's coming for him. Then cue Bad Blood, October 1997, Kane debuts. That's when I really feel like we started getting depth to the Undertaker, because for so long he operated under Mystique and nobody knew much about him. Now we started to get something. So you got to think, from 1990 now to 1997, we're finally getting some backstory to the fucking guy. It's amazing, because it, again, like we're talking about, nobody else could have really pulled that off to maintain our attention, maintain our investment until we're getting more of the story. And again, to Glenn Jacobs' credit, to Kane's credit, it worked really well. And it was something that they continued to go throughout the years. But from 97 through 98, they're feuding with each other. We see the first ever Inferno match, which by the conversation, the Brothers of Destruction documentary that they had on the network, it sounds like it was pretty terrifying because they had no practice whatsoever in sort of like maneuvering in a ring with fire around them. I mean, I would be terrified. I don't know about you guys. I couldn't do that. But I think that feud was really what propelled him into this like whole Prince of Darkness. And then he eventually gets the Ministry. So it's getting these acolytes. And the way he kind of looked at it was he wanted to get people that needed TV time. And I thought that was really cool. So it was almost a way to put people over by getting association with the Undertaker. So you're getting, by proxy, then you're getting, time with Triple H, you're getting time with Rock, you get like all these kind of big names at that time in 98, 99. And then obviously with Vince kind of getting folded into the mix as, the leader behind all the Ministry, which I'm sure that's how Vince actually sees himself. But that's another podcast.
Yeah, no, you put it perfectly. I'll never forget though the Prince of Darkness phase when it first started. You mentioned Mankind. I'm pretty sure Undertaker got buried alive.
He did.
But then he came down from the rafters with this new outfit, and it was this more sinister, devilish look rather than a dead man look. So I thought it was pretty cool. But the thing about Kane, which is really interesting, is that Undertaker and Kane met before they even went in WWE. It was years before, and Undertaker loved the guy. He thought he was great. He could work in the ring. He was a big guy. He just had horrible gimmicks and was true up until Kane, really. But I thought it was awesome. And the Hell in the Cell was really invented for Kane. Like, it was really about Kane coming in and being able to get into the structure that no one was supposed to be able to get into and make him look like this guy that could actually beat the Undertaker. And they did a great job. They really did. And week after week, Kane would beat people on Raw and just come out and choke slam them because he wanted to face the Undertaker. And the Undertaker, for the first time, like you said, he showed a little bit of emotion. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to be like, okay, he's not just a dead guy anymore. He's a guy that actually has a backstory, like you said, but he gave these looks that were perfect. It was still Undertaker, but it gave you this sense of feeling for him. And I loved it. I loved it. Yeah. But I don't want to downplay Mankind's, feud with him too, because Mankind did a great job. Mick Foley did a really great job working against him. So it was awesome. Yeah. And I know we'll get into some matches later, so we can keep moving along.
They had such a crazy feud, Mankind and the Undertaker, for like the boiler room brawl, all this stuff. It was crazy.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to remember, because you guys seem to have like photographic memories about this shit. So the Undertaker disappears or something at some point.
He got hurt.
Oh, he had like a groin injury or something. And he left in like September 1999, and then he comes back in like May during the Iron Man match with Rock and Triple H.
Yep.
Is that when he came back as the American Badass?
Mm-hmm.
Which was just even further development of the character. And it was almost like, so just to start you guys off, I guess I would say that the Undertaker was, it was almost like they made him like a real person when we found out that he had like murdered his parents by accident through a fire, and he had a real brother. So then it became like, I'm no longer like depressed, and I'm not like the Prince of this is the way I saw it as a kid. I'm no longer depressed. I'm no longer like the Prince of Darkness. I'm just like a fucking badass. I'm the American badass, and I drive a motorcycle. And you know what? I'll just drive it to the ring and drive around one time and get out and then go in the ring.
Your Titan motorcycle.
Yep. And come out to Limp Bizkit and Kid Rock.
Oh man, I can't stand Kid Rock, but so that was not fun. But Limp Bizkit, I was all behind. I was all behind Limp Bizkit.
Damn right you were. Damn right you were.
But so Mango, to your point about him, I think a lot of us, especially at the time, we were all like, well, why the fuck is he coming out like that? Like, was he coming out in jeans and just like a trench coat? And listening to a couple of interviews that he had, and then like, I guess just using like context of the wrestling world at that time, like, I guess in a way, as much as we love The Undertaker and all that, I think at that specific period of time from like 97 to like 2000, you might have almost considered his character to be like in the passe type of realm, because WCW at that time was trying to do a lot more reality-based stuff. People were coming out to their actual names, like Razor Ramon was coming out as Scott Hall, and it was just Kevin Nash now. So I think in some way he was trying to inject a little bit more of that reality into the character, in addition to wanting to still be familiar to the fans. He wasn't going to try to come out, I think, as somebody that none of us would even recognize. But I think he also wanted to maintain a little bit more closer to his actual personality, which he's not legitimately sacrificing people and praying to the devil. So he was trying to take a little bit more grounded approach, but also maintain an authenticity to the character he had developed for over 10 years. So I think it was it was a hard adjustment. I think at the time, I don't think I really thought about it. I was like 13 and I was like, oh, okay, cool. He comes out on a bike now instead of walking around with druids. Great. But the one thing that I couldn't get over was he stopped using the tombstone. And I remember when WWF put this like weird ban on pile drivers for some reason. Well, I guess I know the reason, because Draws and Stone Cold both got their necks broken, and only one of them was able to be walking afterwards. So I get why they did that. But it was cool to see him start using a power bomb, I guess. But I did miss the tombstone for a long time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Mike. I also think he did it because it's 10 years of the same character. You know what I mean? And it was time for a change. Like, you can't keep that character for 10 years. People evolve. And I think the big evil gimmick, the American badass, I hated it at the time because I was a traditionalist. I loved the stuff that was the same. I hated it. Absolutely hated it. But I look back on it now, and I think it was a necessary thing to do. I really do, because it was a whole different version of The Undertaker. It fit him perfectly. And at that point, I'm not going to say he's late in his career, but he's definitely past the important stages of his career. And he started putting people over too. Like Randy Orton was a big one. He put Randy Orton over, and, you have to have a lot of respect for The Undertaker for doing stuff like that. What made Undertaker great throughout his whole career to me is that he's a guy that didn't need a title to have a good career. He didn't. And so that just goes to show you, like, this guy's willing to do what's best for the business. He sees something in Randy Orton, he's going to put him over. And he did it for guys like Jeff Hardy too.
I mean, to your, I apologize for interjecting, but I have this note here of like from 2000 to 2003, which is basically as long as that American Badass gimmick lasted for him. So it starts out with he comes back, and then he immediately gets into this like little program with Kurt Angle. Like it eventually it's inevitably like a squash to Angle, but still gives Angle the rub for working with the Undertaker. And we know where Kurt Angle's career went out. Later on that year, he throws Rikishi off the Hell in a Cell, which is just another crazy moment. And just living up to his "I'll make you famous" moniker that he had. Then he has. If it wasn't for Rock and Austin having the barn burner that they had in the main event, his match with Triple H at WrestleMania 17 was the show stealer. It was unreal. It was so good. Yeah. Then we go to, so then he turns heel, right? He has this whole thing with the Brothers of Destruction, the invasion angle, yada, yada, yada. Bottom line, he turns heel. 2002, Maven, the fucking Tough Enough winner, eliminates him from the Rumble. That's a big rub, man.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I mean, he beats the shit out of him for like 2 months after that, but still, it's great. And like you said, the RVD matches, Jeff Hardy, the ladder match, like the Orton thing. He's the first major fucking feud for Brock Lesnar coming out of his title win over The Rock. That's a big move. I mean, I know that I think at the time we all hated that badass gimmick, but this guy, that I think he did some of his best work during that time. Not to mention in 2003, sorry, this quick aside, he has a really great match with John Cena. And I think when you look at that, and then you look at what they had at WrestleMania 34, that sometime later, like you think to yourself, man, what could have been? And it really missed out.
No, I couldn't agree with you more on that, man. You're 100% correct. I think for me, I thought that was going to be the twilight of Undertaker's career, but it wasn't, right? No, it was not the end of his career. He ends up going on for 10 years later, you know?
He got buried, and like you said, he resurrected himself again. So it was in 2003, he has that buried alive match with Vince, and then Kane comes out, which makes perfect sense that it would be Kane. And he buries him. And then we go to WrestleMania 20, and he like resurrects the whole Phenom gimmick, but with like a Walker Texas Ranger kind of tinge to it. I don't know. I hated the hat when he first came back. I gotta admit, I couldn't get past that hat for a while, but he perfected it over the years.
No, you're right.
What was the hat? What was the hat like? I don't remember.
It was just like, it looked like an actual cowboy hat, and I was like,
it was like a cowboy hat.
What is he doing?
Are you talking about the one he wears now?
No, the one he wears now, I think, is fine.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
That's like Rail. What he had was pretty legitimately like a what is it? A Stetson? Is it cowboy hat?
Yeah. Wow.
Who did he face at Mania 20? Was it Kane?
Yeah. One of the coolest moments was at that 03 Rumble. Kane is in the ring and like the countdown for the Rumble's going. And it was like, and then all the lights went out and you just hear the bong. And everybody went crazy. Because at that point, it's been like 3 years since they heard it. So it was pretty cool.
They brought it back, yeah.
And then Chavo Guerrero comes out.
What a letdown. So there's like, so from WrestleMania 20 to WrestleMania, I don't know what, like 26, he's kind of full time, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
And he has those unbelievable matches with Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania, which are career defining for anybody else. I mean, they are for him, but think about all the people he's had feuds with going back. Hogan, Warrior, Kamala. Don't forget Kamala. I think he died recently.
Yeah.
But anyways, when did he kind of transition to going just once a year?
So I think a lot of it, he was kind of, to me, it seemed like he was dwindling down his career. But what saved his career, I think, was the streak. It became this larger than life thing. Quite honestly, a lot of the times I watch WrestleMania in between the 2010s when he became the Phenom, right, part of his career. It was because I wanted to see the streak. Honestly, I hated a lot of the WrestleManias, in between. But seeing him wrestle every year, it just became this organic thing that he didn't even know about it. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you know who his first victory was at WrestleMania? Who was his opponent?
Jimmy Snuka. Come on.
You're damn right it was Jimmy Snuka.
I wrote the book on Undertaker trivia. Come on.
Yeah, you're right.
But
you're trying to steal his gimmick.
That's my gimmick, man. I have questions. That's why I know all this stuff. I looked it up earlier. I remember going to Bobby Stone's house in Melrose in 2012 and watching WrestleMania. I think it was 28. Do you remember this, Bobby? It was Undertaker versus Triple H the second time, I think. It was in the Hell in a Cell.
Fantastic match that was.
But didn't you think,
fantastic match?
Didn't you think he was kind of losing a step back then?
Oh, of course.
He was losing a step for a couple of years, but he was still able to keep those matches going, and he was able to keep like a consistency of quality in his matches. So even though he was coming in once a year, and I think that documentary, The Last Ride, kind of speaks to it. Like he started feeling the pressure of like every year. He's like, I got to get like ready. I got to get up for it. Got to make sure it's the right opponent and make sure that I'm delivering that caliber of match.
Well, the second half of that, and to your point, Mikey Cash, is that cycle of age and Mother Nature creeping up on him. So you're having one massive match a year on the grandest stage of them all. 2 days later, you're going into surgery
Yeah.
on some sort of body part that's going to need a major surgery, orthopedic surgery, needs a repair. So not only are you going in for your cycle is now WrestleMania, surgery, rehab, conditioning for Mania. That was his cycle for a little while, and that in of in itself was difficult for him because he needed to take, ring rust was real. The reason why he was bruising up as much is because he wasn't taking those bumps on a nightly basis, so he wasn't callousing as much.
Yeah.
And the age was creeping up on him,
Right.
but he loved what he did. So when you talking about the last ride, I loved every ounce of that documentary, because for 27 years, that mystique is what we loved about the player, about the Undertaker, right?
Yeah.
So you never really got a full glimpse into what the other side was in the Mark Calloway. And to hear what, who he was backstage as, you hear about Wrestler's Court, you hear about just how he was that man who everybody seeked out for advice if you were ever so lucky to get the advice from him. If you got that blessing from him, you were onto something. So I think there were plenty of wrestlers who didn't get the creed, but then there were plenty more that actually that got that blessing. And I think one of the biggest components of that respect was the Undertaker Cena match, where I believe you were there, Mikey Cash. Was that in New Orleans?
Yeah, that was in New Orleans where he just squashed Cena for about.
How was it in that crowd? How did that feel watching?
I know I feel bad saying this, but a lot of the people in the audience, including myself, were like, "Wait, that's fucking it?" Because there was a lot of buildup going into that year's WrestleMania, and I think a lot of people wanted to see that match with Undertaker because, I mean, at the time we were always armchair quarterback saying, "Hey, if this is going to be Undertaker's last match, who should it be against?" And I think Cena was like a very logical person for them at the time because even at that point, like Roman Reigns, they didn't see him as, I think us as fans didn't see Roman Reigns as like worthy to be the Undertaker's last match. But Cena, on the other hand, had sort of earned that legacy status, and I think people wanted that. So as cool as it was, like the fans, like we went crazy for him when he came out, but when people started seeing where it was actually going, and we were like, wait, what? Like he's just squashed him, tombstone, see you later. I was like, oh, so they just made Cena like Pete Rose, like they just tombstoned him and see you later, and send the fans home happy. And again, I feel bad because like I wanted to like it more than I did, and I think a lot of people feel the same way because it could have had much more potential than the way they executed it.
I think you're right. I think the reason they did it though was because they hated the way that he went out, or he hated the way he went out with Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
So they need to make him look like the Phenom, and
Right.
and they succeeded in that. To me,
that's when they stopped trusting him, I think.
Well, yeah,
because
it is.
They didn't give him any time. They didn't trust him to go out and do the barn burners.
No, it was
all what happened when they give him 25 minutes.
Right, yeah, it was Lesnar. The loss to Lesnar, like, it not only ended the streak, but truthfully, they should have just ended Undertaker's run there, and used him in a different manner, in my opinion. I mean, I wouldn't have chosen him to lose against Lesnar, and apparently he didn't want to either. I mean, we talked about this a couple episodes ago, I think, so I'm not going to get into it, but I hated that. I would rather have seen them put over someone who needed it, like they talk about. And I also just like it to me that he got hurt that match. He didn't remember half of it. He was in the hospital afterwards. Like it just needed to end there. And so,
Yeah, it
like,
was rough.
did Undertaker go too long? In my opinion, yeah, he did.
Yep.
And
Yep.
does it really hurt his legacy? No, it doesn't. But he doesn't have that fairy tale ending that I feel like he wanted. And I think it was
Yeah.
right there at that moment, the Lesnar thing that really killed it.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
They could have done it very differently.
Yep.
I feel like. I mean, we talk about him having his best matches with smaller guys, and they throw him in there with Lesnar. And I mean, I know they had matches before, but that was just it was kind of crazy. So he went too long. We'll all agree on that, I think, right?
Yeah, I
Agreed.
think so.
Yep.
Oh, I've been calling for his number for years now because I loved the Undertaker. I loved that mystique. But then what we all saw, and everybody who was watching wrestling for the past 15 years could see that it was time.
So the other thing before we wrap this up and get into the matches here, I just want to say, the one thing that really disappointed me was and we posted about this on Twitter, was there was an article talking about Sting and how he wanted to do a cinematic match with The Undertaker. And dude, the minute I saw AJ Styles, I texted you, Mike, and said, they need to do a Sting Undertaker cinematic match. Like, this would be awesome because they're both past their prime, cover up their mistakes. Like, this would be perfect right now. Should have happened years ago, in my opinion, and it would have been a great match. But the cinematic match would have been awesome. But Vince McMahon just didn't want to do it. So these guys talking about, and I'm not going to vent on WWE here, but this goes into my point at the beginning. Like, they easily could have done that match in a cinematic style and it would have been awesome. But Vince McMahon just said, no, didn't want to do it. Didn't think it was cool. But yet the entire wrestling fan base has been clamoring for it for years. And you want to listen to your fans. It's that stuff that drives me crazy. And you end his career on a match like that. That would have been awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I nothing more to really add to that. I think you could, when you listen to Undertaker on that Last Ride documentary, talk about his final match with AJ and how I get the sense that he's a man who's kind of resigned, that it's sort of, this is how it ended, this is how it was. And I feel as though he's, in my professional opinion, he's actually trying to convince himself that this was a good thing. This ended the way he wanted it to. Yeah. And I mean, I get it. We all do that, right? We have expectations for the way we think things are going to go, and then it doesn't go that way. So what do? Do we keep holding on too long, or do we eventually have to say, okay, well, this is how it was. I have to accept it. I don't have to like it, but this is the way it was.
Yeah. Well, I also think he ended HBK's career in the best way you could end it. Like, it was so good. And he's like, I want that. Like, I want that. I just did it for this guy. Someone's going to do it for me,
Shawn Michaels came back in Saudi Arabia. Don't forget.
Right. The worst.
And landed on his head.
Worst match of all time.
I don't know how he didn't break his skull open.
No.
But when you think awful for those guys in that match, doing that match, because they wanted to put up. You don't.
I don't feel bad either. They made a shitload of money, man.
I don't feel that bad. I don't feel that bad because you could have said no. And and that's where I think with him going on too long, this became the problem. The whole documentary is about him saying, I don't want to become a parody of myself. And yet there's a level of like ego here that he was feeding into. And I think that's what got him into trouble. This is what happened. That match, the match with Goldberg, it was just like, it was a train.
That match with Goldberg,
and all because he just wanted to check things off his bucket list. And listen, I'm all for that, but you have he wasn't accepting where he was at that time, and this was the result of that. This is what happens when you try to force it.
But was it partially Vince McMahon?
Oh, I'm sure, we could have a whole nother podcast about the issues with their Saudi Arabia contract, but the bottom line is he wanted eyes on that product. He wanted eyes on that show. He wanted asses in the seats. And so he knows that fan base over there has never seen any matches with The Undertaker or Kane or DX for that matter. So he thought, I could just trot out these old dudes and they'll just cheer for him, which they did, by the way. And it will be fine. And I guess on paper you could think these are 4 guys who are seasoned veterans. They're going to know how to work a match, even if it's not crazy, 2020 style. But the problem is they tried to work 2020 style. So stop doing that.
Well, you can't go. There is no such thing as going
way.
half speed, right? There's no such thing as going half speed. So,
well,
if you're gonna,
I don't agree with that. There, you can go half speed. That's the whole point of psychology in a match, is you have to slow down tempos. You can't just be running around fucking diving and stuff. But anyway, I'm going on a tirade, and we got to get to some matches here.
Yeah,
so.
let's get to him. Let's get to him.
We're getting so deep in the weeds. I love it though.
I got heated. I'm really sorry.
Mikey,
I love it.
Don't get Mikey started on Saudi Arabia and working too fast. Okay, let's talk about our favorite matches. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first here. I'll be kind of brief. I mean, we've talked about his career a lot, but we talked about Mankind. My favorite matches is Undertaker and Mankind. And what's funny about the Undertaker is in a lot of matches, he gets credit for some of these matches, but realistically, he was the one that did all the damage. He didn't have to take any bumps in this crap, and which is great. But I mean, I don't know how you get so lucky to be able to do that. But Mankind took an absolute beating at the hand of the Undertaker. And this match, I remember it happening, and I was just in shock. I didn't watch ECW at that time. I didn't see any of this stuff, and this was right around that time, and all of this hardcore stuff. I mean, seeing him get thrown off the Hell in the Cell onto the table, I thought the guy was dead. I mean, watching it, I thought he was dead. Then he keeps going, okay, and he gets thrown through the top of the Hell in the Cell. Which, what the hell? Like, I was in shock, dude. And I listened to the Undertaker; it wasn't supposed to happen. So, like, that's even crazier. It's just if you look at it, you can see the rings on the top of the cage just like collapse. It was nuts. And then he gets thrown on thumbtacks. Like, this guy, honestly, his career ended that day. Like, no question in my mind. And I just thought it was an awesome match. And a lot of credit goes to the Undertaker too. I mean, I know he did the majority of the easy work kind of in that, but he did such a good job selling that role. And he was so athletic, and he was able to do things that was awesome. And Mankind made him in that. He absolutely made him in that. So that was one of my matches. I just thought it was awesome. I loved every second of it. And they try to repeat that type of stuff. You look at it all the time with people jumping on the cages, and it'll never compare to that. It was awesome. And then my other one was HBK versus Taker at Mania. I mean, this has to be up there. It just, you watch those matches and it was so awesome. You're watching this guy who hadn't lost versus a guy who was trying to end the streak, and then it was career versus streak. Like, the streak became the really cool thing to watch for WrestleMania, like I mentioned, and I was invested. As a 25-year-old man, I was invested. Like, and it was the first time I'd been invested in wrestling for a while, because I love this streak. I just thought it was awesome. I thought they put on such a great match, and all the matches with Undertaker and HBK were pretty good. So those were my two.
Nice. Well, I will preface my two matches by saying, Mango, you were right about something you said about a lot of Undertaker's great matches are against some smaller guys. I think Mankind is an exception, and Kane, but like some of the smaller guys, because the two matches I have are Undertaker versus Kurt Angle from No Way Out in 2006. I just watched this again this morning, and holy shit, these guys put on a clinic. Great and match. To be honest, for Angle being the smaller guy and arguably the underdog in that match, he actually dominates the Undertaker throughout the entirety of that match. He starts working the leg, which is just natural for a smaller guy working a big guy. Also fits Angle's MO because he's working towards the ankle lock. And this whole match is actually the story of Undertaker's sort of resiliency, and how I actually think that this match is Undertaker taking Kurt Angle for granted. I think he kind of sees him as someone who's not as imposing as he actually is, and not as resourceful as he was, because throughout that match, Angle shows it through multiple counters into getting into the ankle lock. He counters the tombstone into the ankle lock at one point, and it's really great to see. And Angle actually ends up winning that match, so I think that's kind of cool. My next match is Undertaker versus Bret Hart, and it's not their SummerSlam match, because I felt that SummerSlam match had too much focus on Shawn Michaels as the referee, and fuck Shawn Michaels. So Undertaker versus Bret Hart from One Night Only in 1997. It was like a UK pay-per-view that they did, and it's actually known for the big British Bulldog HBK match, their European Championship match. But this is, I think, a much better Bret and Undertaker match. It's similar in style to what I was just talking about with Kurt Angle and The Undertaker, in that it's a smaller guy, a technician who's kind of working a body part, trying to methodically break down The Undertaker, and it's The Undertaker's power and athleticism that's just kind of propelling him throughout that match. And obviously, it's Bret being Bret. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. My only issue with it is that it ends in a disqualification, but a really, really solid match between these two, which we should expect at this point. And I have many more matches in my queue, but those are the two that really stand out.
Mango, I just want to apologize. I did not realize that you had some matches that I already talked about, so I apologize.
I didn't realize that either. I just threw them on. But asshole, you suck.
I know. I feel like I always take your thunder, and I didn't even realize it. We have us all written up and everything. I'm sorry. I just want to apologize.
Give us some trivia.
I know.
I think Bobby Stone has some serious takes right now that he wants to give us.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Strap in. Let's go.
Gentlemen, the year was 2002.
By God.
Vengeance is the pay-per-view. So I just want to set the stage for you real quick. This was supposed to originally be Taker versus The Rock for the Undisputed Championship. Rock is at the King of the Ring. It's actually Taker versus Triple H.
Game.
And Taker ends up winning the match in spite of Rock's interference into the match. So here comes Vengeance, and it's supposed to just be these two. But in a botched match on SmackDown, it's Kurt Angle versus Taker for a championship belt as well. And Taker's actually getting the 3 count in the middle of a submission match, in the middle of Kurt Angle's submission hold, rather. There was a pin, and you guys should check it out. I'll see if I can get the clip. But Taker ends up tapping at the same time the 3 count gets landed. So
great ending.
Here you have Vince making an announcement that at Vengeance you're going to have a triple threat between these 3. When I was looking back through kind of the options, I mean, you have a 30-year catalog, and this is where, quick side tangent, the WWE Network needs to start cataloging matches by wrestlers. Because I want to just watch one wrestler's full catalog. I want to be able to do it. But Earl Hebner, gentlemen, is the referee for this match, okay?
Earl the Pearl.
Earl's my guy. Then you have Rock and Taker trying to throw bows, and you've got Kurt Angle jumping up and down. So you got the humor of the match, you got the athleticism from all of the guys, but most importantly, you have everybody using each other's special maneuvers, finishing maneuvers, and you have counters going back and forth to the point where Angle uses the rock bottom, Rock uses the ankle lock, Rock lands the people's elbow on Taker, and then Taker ends up using the angle slam at some point. Angle's getting the snot literally beaten out of him, as well as his forehead just gushing blood, right? So back and forth the whole match. I say that the imagery and the execution of the match is of each one of those wrestlers at the peak of their careers. And I said the peak even for the American Badass, all right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this wasn't the Taker, this was a badass era match.
Amen.
So I thought it was a blast. It's definitely worth the rewatch. Taker ends up losing to The Rock, which not only is telling of how Taker really was the locker room guy, He loved what was best for business. He was willing to do. Rock ends up getting the Undisputed Championship and is the first. Mike, you can help me out on this one. I think he was he had the most championship wins at the time.
Well, we talking about Rock?
Yeah, Rock at the time.
Yeah, he became a 7-time champion. Well, you always have Ric Flair, 16, but Rock was up there. He got his 7th title win that time. It was pretty awesome. I was happy about it.
I tried to speed that up for time, and I know I still took forever. So
Dude,
I just think it's worth the watch, and it's a great match to check out.
Yep.
Yeah, I vaguely remember it. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that.
It's one of the best triple threats ever.
I believe it.
Just, there's such great chemistry between the three of them, and so Bobby, great choice.
Yep.
I mean, I went from laughing my balls off to doing the oh my gods to the this is awesome chance. I mean, it was a fantastic roller coaster, and I definitely recommend anybody rechecking that one out.
Yeah, so I'm going to forego my matches. I'm just going to review what we have so far. And then there's one more match I want to talk about, and I'm going to steal Vito's thunder real quick. So
you're allowed. I'm allowing it.
So you have so many legendary Undertaker matches. Mankind Undertaker, Undertaker, HBK, Kurt Angle, Bret Hart, the triple threat match at Vengeance 02. Okay, but you also have a match, WrestleMania 18, where Undertaker faces Flair, and in the documentary, you like that?
So Mango, I know you meant to steal Vito's thunder, but you actually stole mine.
Oh wait, hold on.
How
did it get under Mikey Cash?
True.
Congrats. So you have this vendetta against Vito that is so vitriol that you didn't even bother to read the Google document that's right next to you.
Okay, call that the double cross in podcast terms.
I just got
okay.
Damn.
Then I'd like to talk about a Jim Cornette segment on Raw. So fuck you guys.
You know what? Just like the Undertaker's career, this show has gone on too long.
Yeah, it has kind of gone on too long. But let me just ask you guys one question. We'll go around quickly, and then don't forget we have to do really, really quick for the last 52 minutes of the podcast. We're going to do trivia. Okay, so we got 52 more minutes. You guys ready? Okay. All right. So I forget what I just said, but
trivia.
52 minutes.
Trivia. Let's just go to trivia.
Let's just go to trivia.
I got some questions for you. I got a couple jokey ones I want to start off with.
Love it.
Okay. How many times did Sid shit his pants during the WrestleMania 13 match?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Just once.
One too many.
3 times.
300 times. Okay, here's another funny one. It's actually not that funny, but how many botched jackhammers would it take for Goldberg to beat The Undertaker?
Just one. Just need one.
And dude, he was centimeters away from snapping his neck.
Oh yeah.
I had never seen, like, looking back on it, watching The Last Ride, they had a clip of it, and I was like, holy shit, I forgot it was that bad. Like, I couldn't have, and the Saudi Arabia things are on, like, a Tuesday at, like, noon. So, like, you watch it, because it's, like, Friday night there. In Saudi Arabia, it's 4 days later.
Yeah.
We got some weird time travel stuff going on here.
Yeah, it's like Tuesday morning here. It's Saturday night there. And so anyways, that's what fucked up the Undertaker.
Well, that's what happened though. You know that, right? It was past the Undertaker's bedtime. It's like the guy's usually having his tea and going to bed at that point. He's like 50-something years old.
He line of demarcation, like 12 whole hours. Huh? Usually he's got the early bird special at Denny's and then he's home by then. Okay, so during his WWE career, The Undertaker, what was his Mania record? If you want to ding, 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 you can.
Was it 24-2?
No. You're close.
It's 25-2.
No.
It's 23-2, isn't it?
23-2.
I knew I was off by one.
Here's a good question. Out of his 23 wins, 20 were by pin or submission. There were 3 matches who had a different ending. Do you guys remember what they were?
One was a casket match.
Right.
Who was he facing?
Mabel.
Mark Henry.
Oh, come on. Mark Henry's correct. And there were 2 more.
And they weren't pinfall or submission.
Yeah, we talked about one earlier.
Oh, wait. Was it when he hung Big Boss Man in the Hell in a Cell?
No,
No,
that was
that was
considered
I
a
don't
murder.
remember if he pinned him or if he just hung him in the match.
I don't think that was at a WrestleMania.
No, it was. It was WrestleMania 15.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That was considered a submission.
Okay.
It's a mission of life. He hung him.
He was
That's what
hanging,
happens when
buried
you get
alive.
choked
One
out.
was buried alive.
and he was one was buried alive. Who
Yeah,
was that?
And then didn't
Wait,
Vince
that was
McMahon,
at a
right?
WrestleMania?
It
No, it
happened
wasn't
like
Vince
3 months ago.
Oh, it was it was AJ Styles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Hey,
there's a little Vince
I know,
Russo
that's-
action there, a little swerve.
So they're basically like we don't know what's going to end this match. They just put him underground, and that was it. It's over.
Probably the best way to.
But there's
get them-
one more. I can't believe you guys aren't remembering this. That wasn't a pinfall or submission.
Can you
Wait, it was
let's-
a count out. It was a count out, and wasn't it Jake the Snake? He tombstoned him.
Guys, there was a real tall guy, a very tall guy with fake muscles.
Oh my god! I
On
was
his
just
belly.
talking about this match.
Yes, you
What
are an idiot. I
Sorry.
told you that.
I'm such an idiot.
When podcast hosts don't listen.
Okay, so it was Giant Gonzalez at WrestleMania 9. It
That's
was
a good question.
disqualification.
That's a good one.
All right, I got like 2 more. I got 200
on.
more. Okay,
Bring 'em on.
all right.
Just bring it.
So before I have 3, but there might be more. But before the Undertaker was in the WWE, what names did he go by? This was like
One
89.
was it's some weird Big Mark Calloway or something like that.
Mean Mark. Was it
Mean Mark Calloway. Yeah, Mean Mark Calloway. I was gonna say big.
It was big.
There's a
Yeah,
couple
he was
funny ones.
big.
it wasn't the Red Hurt, was it?
Wasn't he part of the Skyscrapers or something? There was some. He was part of some tag team in WCW for a little while, but I forget.
He was the master of pain. Okay. He was also Texas Red.
Texas
Okay.
Red. That was it. Yeah, that you were close.
I was close with Big Red Hurt.
I almost said
You were
Booger
close.
Red. I don't know why I wanted to say that. It's just so stupid.
Big. I was gonna say Big Red too, but
It's so
Why-
weird
why
because
was
you
that
don't see.
popping in?
Okay, so in I already kind of went over this a little bit, but in WWE storyline, what happened to what happened to Undertaker's parents?
Didn't they get burned in
they
a
got burned
fire
alive
because
from
of
Kane.
Kane?
Exactly.
well, no,
Was
it's
it
because
Kane
of the
or-
Undertaker. It was because of the Undertaker.
Yeah.
And that's Kane got burnt. That's why he needed to wear the mask the whole time.
Yeah,
Right. And then he got elected a mayor.
Yep.
A couple years.
it's true.
Where the
Okay.
real terror begins.
I have a funny one for you guys. Not really funny, but this is just kind of crazy. I couldn't believe this. How many times has the Undertaker in any of his gimmicks, be it Mean Red, Big Calloway, whatever the hell, how many times has he faced Jerry Lawler? You're never gonna get it, but he faced him 42 times,
Oh my god!
What? I didn't
Wow.
know that. Wow,
and he lost 17 times.
wow.
That must have
That's a
been in
good
the
stat.
Smoky Mountain
Wow,
series.
that's great.
Yeah,
And he only beat him 9 times. It's kind of crazy.
What is
Jerry the
that?
King Lawler. Yeah. It was back in the Smoky Mountain, right? Okay. All right. So that's all I got. You guys have any questions?
I got
those are great trivia questions.
That's awesome.
Should do this every week.
Yeah,
I'm surprised you guys didn't get all of them.
yeah,
Let's just keep this going for another hour and a half. Forget it.
yeah.
It's a marathon
so-
for our listeners.
What do you guys think about the stick up on the bridge? Yeah, some
The
kid threw it up there. Hey, last question. Vito, do you remember your first blowjob?
Yes, of course.
How long did it take the guy to come?
Oh,
I'm sorry, this is going off the rails. All right.
Is this going to be edited out?
Let's hope. Does anyone have any outgoing thoughts?
I got nothing. It was stolen by you.
Yeah, I
would
have something. Well, first of all, to close my segment on the Undertaker, I thought this was great. He deserved a full segment, But beyond that, I want to bring something back. I was watching these the old Raws, and there were a couple really good ones. And there was a time, I don't know if you remember this, but Vince McMahon did a PSA on the Attitude Era and how they were changing how things were going, and they gave a warning to like the crowd about how it was going to be more adult rated. And it's like, bring that back, dude. Like, bring some of that back. Like, I don't understand. He could do it then, can't do it now. Corporately owned. I don't know. But then a few weeks later, they did a segment. Jim Cornette came on and gave this awesome tirade. I'm going to post it on our Twitter page. But it was talking about how wrestling sucks and like just a verbal beatdown of wrestling. And my point with this is that I want to talk about is like, that's how I feel now. I want to keep this positive too, but like that's exactly how I feel right now. Yeah. So I'm going to post that on Twitter for you guys to check out. It's awesome. It's like it goes on for probably, I don't know, I want to say 2 or 3 minutes. It's probably 2 or 3 minutes too long, but it's still awesome.
That's pretty good stuff.
I will say, watching and kind of going back, a couple episodes ago, Vito, you were talking about just the simple fact that the network was putting on as much content as they could for The Undertaker, for Survivor Series, and just kind of the celebration of the Taker's career. I don't know from a corporate send-off, I don't know what more the company could have did for him, but what was done was classy. It was much needed. Everything that was done for it, the documentaries, the send-off, I mean, we know that the send-off could have been better, but damn was that cool. That WrestleMania match with AJ Styles, nothing like we've ever seen before, because it's just not done. What was done with that man for 30 years was just, we could joke as long as we want about the walks or but what he did, he put the company on his back, and he was fantastic. And he's the leader of my Mount Rushmore.
Love it, Bobby Stone. Love every second of that.
You can't beat that with a stick. Believe that.
That's on the bridge. That was up there by the kid.
Yeah. How long did it take the guy to come? All right. So signing off. Strutting from Gorilla. We'll see you in 2 weeks. I hope you enjoyed this 3-hour podcast. Have a good one.
We now return your perception of reality to you. Until next time.